This is Mike Calcode with McAfee. Today I'm going to discuss with you and show you how to install the McAfee ePolicy Orchestrator, which is our management server which we've had for over 18 years now. To begin with, you're going to need to download the software. So you have two options here. One, if you're not a customer with a valid grant number, you can go to our free trial download site, which I'll show you here in just a second. And then if you are a customer with a valid grant number, then you can go to the downloads product page and download the product there as well. To get to the free download site, what you'll do is you will go to McAfee.com, click on For Business, put your mouse over Support, and go to Free Trials. Under Free Trials, you want to click on Security Management, and then click Download for the current version of our ePO server. On this page, this will be a registration page that you fill out. You'll confirm that you're not a robot, submit that, and then you'll be able to download the product. The product download site, if you have a valid grant number, will be somewhat similar. You can go to McAfee.com, go to For Business, go to Support, and instead of Free Trials, go to Product Downloads. Then click on Product Downloads again. Then at this point, you're going to enter your grant number, email address, confirm you're not a robot once again, and submit that, and you'll be able to go into the download pages where you can download that particular product. The next thing you're going to need to do is have a Windows server ready. So R2 2008 or above, you will need to have one of those ready. And then if you want to confirm in regards to what platforms are supported by what versions of our software, so you can, we do have multiple versions of the software that are still supported. And in order to do that, you'll go to KB 51569. And the way that I normally get to the support pages for that is to just do a Google search on McAfee supported products. It'll pull up the KB article that lists that. Once you get into this window, you're going to see that this is going to be the supported platform and supported products for all of the McAfee products. When you come to the ePO server, which is 51569, and click on that, it's then going to bring you into the product page for the ePO server. In here, you're going to be able to see what versions of ePO are supported on what versions of the Microsoft operating system, as well as what versions are going to be supported with the versions of ePO, as well as with the versions of SQL Server and SQL Express. Speaking of SQL, the next thing that you're going to need to have available is going to be either an existing SQL server that you can connect to and we can create a database in, because our backend infrastructure for our ePO is going to be a SQL database, or a SQL Express installation, and we do include the SQL Express installation file in a directory underneath the installation files that we'll give you to install our product as well. And then of course next what you're going to do is install ePO. The steps to install SQL Express, I have found in my installations of our ePO server onto a 2016 server that our installation does not offer you the capability to be able to self-install during the installation of ePO, to install the installation of SQL Express at that time. And you may have to come back and install it manually before you actually install the ePO console. My preference is to always install SQL manually to begin with, so that I can configure it in certain ways and then install ePO on top of that. But there will be circumstances where ePO can install SQL Express for you if you choose that selection in the installation setup. If you do try to load ePO and the SQL Server is not available, and you have not installed SQL Express, and it does not give you the capability to choose to install SQL Express, then you will need to come back and go to the directory where the setup files are, and inside of that there's going to be a directory called setup. Inside of that there'll be a directory SQL 2016 Express, and then the executable for that installation is going to be inside of there. If you're running a 2008 R2 server, then you will need to download the SQL Express 2008 R2 and load that itself. If you do need to install SQL Express, it's a pretty straightforward process. Here's just a couple of things that I like to do in particular with this process. Of course, I've showed you where the product is. Once you run it, it's going to extract the files. You'll choose standalone installation or add features. You'll then accept the terms. You can change the installation directory at this point if you want to. You can change the instance name. I like to change the SQL Server browser to automatic. It is normally set for disabled at this point. Setting it to automatic gives you the capability to be able to search and find the SQL Server, the SQL Express server, when you do the ePO installation. I also like to change it to mixed mode authentication so that I can use a local SQL account if I want to, and then it's pretty standard after that. The next thing you are going to have to do, so if the SQL Express is not installed by the ePO installation, that installation will do some extra configuration on the SQL side to make it available for us. But if you have to install it manually, then you will have to go into the SQL Server Manager. Underneath that, there'll be a SQL Server Network configuration and a protocols for SQL Express. Inside of there, you need to turn on TCP, IP, and name pipes. After that, you need to go to the SQL Server Services and restart the SQL Server SQL Express service. Once that's done, then you'll go back to the installation files for ePO. You'll run that file. You'll be able to change the directory location of where it's going to be installed, and then you'll come in to select the database. If you've configured it the way that I showed you in the previous page, the drop-down box, the SQL Server Express, will be located in that. You can select that. Then at that point, you can come in and set what your authentication is going to be, whether it's going to be Active Directory in Windows, domain, or it's going to be a local account such as SA. There are circumstances where at times we may not see the port number or may not be able to determine the port number for the SQL Server. If that's the case, then what you'll need to do is go to this reg key and find the port number that's listed. That port number you would then enter into our installation page, and it should connect at that point. After that, you'll put in a password for the admin. You can also change the admin username at that point. That will be your global ePO administrator. Create that password. Create a passphrase password. This is going to be important if you do a disaster recovery of the ePO server, because that will be encrypted with this password. And then choose evaluation, because you don't have a valid ePO license at this point. But the good thing with that is, in order to change this installed server from an evaluation to a licensed version, all you have to do is switch out that license, and it'll still be a fully licensed product at that point. The next piece that I've got here are some references. One is to our Expert Center. So inside of this area, pretty much every product that we've got, there's going to be an area where we've got videos and install guides and best practices and manuals and things like that that are associated with that product that you're going to have access to. I've also listed how you can get the 591 installation guide, and I've always found it useful to refer back to the 5.3 best practices guide as far as a hard disk configuration for SQL. So the slowest part of your ePO server is going to be the SQL database. And to get the optimal speed that you can get from a SQL database, you need to follow the configuration in regards to RAID assignment and how the different components are placed on a different RAID disk within that structure. And this gives you a detailed diagram of what you need to do according to number of nodes that you plan to deploy and that kind of thing. And with the Expert Center, kind of give you a reference here. The easiest way that I find to go to the Expert Center is just McAfee.com/Expert Center, and then it'll bring you onto that page. They'll do a redirect into our community.McAfee.com, and it'll bring you into the home page where we've got featured products, we've got all products, we've got some security solutions and McAfee Labs type information, but I normally just go to the See More Products page, and inside of here you can see that the majority of the products that we have that we offer as solutions are going to be listed here. And you just click into a product that you're interested in, and then you're going to see work that's been done and that's been contributed within this community that you'll have access to as well. So this is going to be a very important piece that you'll be able to utilize. Now we're ready to actually install our ePO software onto a Windows server. In this case, we've got a 2016 Windows server that we're going to be working with. I have already downloaded the installation files local to this computer. And I have extracted the zip file. So that's going to be important. I have actually had people try to run the executable from the zip file, and it doesn't work very well if you try to do that. This first time on a 2016, like I said in the previous part of the video, I have not had success in the automatic deployment of the SQL Express installation when I'm on a 2016 server. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like here real quick. It doesn't take long. So I'm going to run the setup.exe file from our installation files. In this circumstance, we're going to go through a search for domain controllers and SQL servers. Now that the search has come back, you can see that we weren't able to find any SQL servers, which is true in this environment. There are no SQL servers. So rather than search again, I'm just going to click on No. But you'll see that it's going to bring me into a page where I've got no connection to a SQL server. So the installation is not going to be able to continue at this point, so I'm going to cancel it. And what that tells me is I am going to have to install the SQL Server manually. So I'll go into the setup directory, into the SQL Express directory, and I'll run the executable in this directory. I'm going to now extract the files for the SQL Express installation. And then that brings up this menu, and you need to choose standalone installation. You need to keep this window open because it does need to be open during this installation. Next, I'm going to accept the terms and click on Next. And I'm not really interested in updates at this point, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click Next on that. And then we're going to install the setup files. So at this point, it's just doing a check, and you can see from the checks that I've passed everything except for the domain controller. It is not recommended that you install this on a domain controller, probably not supported, as well as either SQL Express or our ePO server either. But in this circumstance, I've got everything combined onto one server to create a reduction of space that I've got within my VMware environment. This page, I can select what features I want to add, where I want to install it. Next is the instance name. If you want to change the instance name, this is the time to do it. And then this is where I like to change the SQL Server browser from disabled to automatic so that our installation will be able to see it when we come back up. Then I'm going to apply mixed mode so that I can utilize either a domain account or a local account to SQL. And then now the installation has begun on the SQL Express server. Now you can see that we have successfully installed the SQL Server onto our 2016 server. So at this point I can close this window. If I wanted to go in and add Studio Management Tools right here, I could do that. Just go ahead and click on that and it would add that feature set to this at that point where I could get the full-blown capability of going in and working with the events tables and queries and things like that. But right now I'm going to go in and change my configuration under Configuration Manager. And inside of here, I need to go to Protocols for SQL Express and turn on Name Pipes and TCP/IP. And then I also want to come to the services because that's not going to go into effect until I restart the SQL Server service. And so I'll do that at this point as well. Now that that's done, I can go back to my setup for my ePO server and I can rerun that. Now you can see that it did find a SQL Server. That SQL Server is going to be the SQL Express that we just installed. I am, at this instance, going to go ahead and change it to an SA account installation and put in the username and password for that. You can see here that we have not designated it as TCP port yet for SQL. We're going to discover that with this authentication connection that we're going to use right here. You can now see that the port that's being used by my instance is going to be listed right here. These other ports are going to be utilized in communication either from the ePO agent to ePO or ePO to the ePO agents, that type of thing. These ports have been the same for nearly 18 years, so this is really the best opportunity that you're going to have to change these ports. For circumstance for that would be if you wanted to segregate traffic in regards to the agent to server communication port, then this would be a time to do that. If you wanted to get it off of port 80 and 443 so that you could have better control over it, then this is absolutely the time to do that. Next, this is where you would have the capability to change the username of your global ePO admin and then put in a password for that admin and then put in a passphrase. Like I said before, this passphrase is used in the disaster recovery snapshot, so that if you do need to recover an ePO server with that, you'll need this password. We're just going to do evaluation at this point. And then we're going to install the product. So now you can see that we've had a successful installation of our software for ePO onto the Windows 2016 server. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the web interface and finish this installation. So now whatever username I added before, I'll put in here and I'll put in the password. And then now I've got access to my ePO console and I'm able to begin working with the endpoint security products that I'm licensed for. I want to thank you for watching this video today. Hopefully it's helped you in being able to understand the components of the installation of our ePO server.